This movie has a recurring joke in it, and that is Reed and Sue using the line, "Can you skip to the end?" whenever they're at the wedding altar. Unfortunately, the movie writers didn't take their own advice. Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer is a movie released in 2007 and is the direct sequel to the Fantastic Four movie from 2 years previous, starring Ian Grufford, Jessica Alba, Michael Chiklis, Chris Evans, and Lawrence Fishburne, and directed by Tim Story. Now, this movie does raise the stakes from the first movie in the fact that there is a planet-wide threat coming its way in the form of Galactus, who devours worlds after they've been earmarked by the Silver Surfer. And after the Silver Surfer decides that Earth is suitable for Galactus to devour, the Fantastic Four have to find a way to come together and stop this from happening, all whilst having to not only battle against Doctor Doom's return, but also trying to get Reed and Sue married as well. Now, I am going to say I am going to be quite harsh on this movie just because of the way I felt when I was watching it. But there are a lot of good things about this movie, mainly down to the subplot of Reed and Susan's marriage. And it does highlight that there is a little bit of a rift that's taking place between Reed and Sue. Whilst they are engaged and whilst they are still quite loved up, there have been a number of delays that have happened to their wedding plans. And it does sort of show that Reed is struggling to juggle the life of Mr. Fantastic and the life of Reed Richards. He is trying to commit himself to Sue and trying to show that he's fully focused on her, but at the same time, there are planet-wide threats that are taking place, and he is the leader of the Fantastic Four. He has a responsibility to save the world, and that culminates in the idea of Sue sort of presenting the idea of, in order to raise a family, they can no longer do what they're doing, and we do get the idea of them splitting away from the Fantastic Four and leaving Johnny and Ben alone and behind, which doesn't really go down well with Johnny and Ben. But that does all get rectified when they realise actually how important they are to the world after they manage to overcome the global threat in the form of Galactus. Or do they? Because quite frankly, they don't really do anything. It is the Silver Surfer that manages to take out Galactus. I will go into detail about that in a bit because I do want to focus on the good parts of this movie. There are, once again, a number of comedy sequences in this movie, mainly the sequences where Johnny has a run-in with the Silver Surfer, and as a result, his powers are in flux and they keep getting transferred between Sue and the Thing and Reed, and you get to see actually what he would be like if he had one of the powers but can't really control them. Those are quite funny, especially with, again, the dynamic between Johnny and Ben and the way they swap powers and that whole dynamic as well. It is quite funny to watch. And Doctor Doom's return, albeit that's not ever really explained of how that's happened, he does seem to have been developed as a character. You do see his higher level of intelligence that almost mirrors or rivals Reed Richards' intelligence as well. And there is that level of diabolical nature behind him as well, with the master plan taking place behind the main plot of the movie. All of that is good stuff. The original cast coming back as well, it gives them almost a sort of further developed version of their characters from the previous movie. We do see that they have moved on, and in particular, Johnny Storm's character is one where he starts to question actually whether his actions as being that reckless person are endangering those around him and whether they are at the detriment of the group as a whole, which is quite an interesting sort of storyline to go down. But the problem that this movie has is there is too much going on in such a short space of time. I do think the Silver Surfer is a very good addition to this movie, not least of which because of Lawrence Fishburne's portrayal as the voice of the character as well. It sounds bad, his emotionless delivery is intentional. It's not just poor acting. Well, it isn't poor acting, it is intentional, but it gives you that level of mystery behind the character. And whilst his backstory is explained, while he does give sort of some details about his previous life, as Norman Rad, you do sort of feel as though there's more to that story than what he's obviously giving out. That, and there's a sequence where the Human Torch sort of chases the Silver Surfer as well, and all of that is actually really good, and the effects are fantastic in that part of the movie. The main question I have is, especially with regards to special effects, the Thing looks good. Well, it's a practical makeup, I know that, but in the action sequences, the Thing looks good. The Human Torch looks very good. The invisibility looks very good. But the stretchiness doesn't. The stretchiness of Mr. Fantastic looks awful, and whilst many people would associate it being ropey as being a very good effect detail, it really isn't. But like I say, the Silver Surfer edition is a very good addition. It raises the stakes from the previous movie because it brings in Galactus, and you've gone from Doctor Doom, who was a very localized villain, to something that's affecting the entire planet and is something that demands their focus. And that, coupled with the side story of the wedding, there really isn't anything else that could distract you so heavily from your wedding than a planet-wide threat in the form of Galactus. That is a perfect story. It's something that could have just been quite nicely trimmed and would have been very tight in regards to its storytelling. And yeah, it wouldn't have deviated at all. There wouldn't have been a wasted minute, I don't think. However, what the writers decided to do was bring Doctor Doom back and add in a further character and a further plot point. And that in it has just stretched that plot to a stupid amount. Almost, in the words of Bilbo Baggins, like butter scraped over too much bread. It gives you too much to service and too much to focus on in order to do it justice. I think it is all perfectly summed up with one of Ben Grimm's lines, in that we are enemies of the US. We have to face off against Doctor Doom, who has unlimited power, and we also have a planet-wide threat that's coming this way and will be here in the next 24 hours. That sums up the rest of the movie perfectly. Unfortunately, the movie only has 20 minutes in order to solve all of those issues. And the way that the movie does that is by, well, firstly, the throwdown with Doctor Doom takes place over the course of about 5 minutes or so before he is then taken out. And I like the way that he's taken out. I like the whole comedy element of Johnny being in flux and taking other people's powers, etc., all that lot. So then finally realising that actually he could take on everybody's powers and overcome Doctor Doom by himself, because there's no way that all four of them would be able to come together and take him out sneakily, whereas one person can. He takes on everybody's powers and he defeats Doom, returns the surfboard to Silver Surfer. That is a very good way of dealing with that villain. However, when you've got Galactus coming your way, who is a staple villain of the Fantastic Four, one thing you do not do is give it to somebody else to solve. The Fantastic Four's involvement in saving the world from Galactus is to convince the Silver Surfer to turn against him. Now, the Silver Surfer's backstory is his planet was threatened by Galactus. Galactus, in service of his servitude, agreed to leave his planet alone, and therefore the people he loves get left alone and allowed to live whilst he serves Galactus. Because Sue Storm reminds him of the person he loves and who he's doing it for, and after Sue then gives up her life or sacrifices her life to save his, he brings her back to life and then goes off and kills himself and takes Galactus with him. Why could he not have just done that? Why? If giving up your life, if you're willing to sacrifice lives of countless of millions of life forms in every single planet that is consumed by Galactus, why would you not just give up your own life to save the people you love, if you're going to take out the one thing that's threatening them and therefore allowing them to live peacefully forever? Why did it take someone who reminds you of the person you love to convince you to do that, as opposed to the one you actually do love? Doesn't really make any sense, and it's just a convenient way of closing off the movie. And let's talk about Galactus, because Galactus isn't really a thing in this movie. Rather than it being the alien god that comes and consumes planets, it's a dust cloud, something that is just faceless and gives absolutely no form a threat at all, even though it teases it. The movie purposely goes out to annoy every single like fan of this franchise in not only the mystery of who Galactus is or what Galactus is, but also to tease at the shape of Galactus's helmet over one planet when it's making its way to Earth, but with no payoff at all. Just, oh, it's dust cloud. Oh, fantastic, great. Why? And I just think that I don't really understand the decision to make this movie 1.5 hours long, but and then to insert other bits. I mean, either you go for a lean story, in which case you don't bring Doctor Doom back, or you bring Doctor Doom back and almost correct or finish off his story quite nicely, but it will extend the story to a 2 hour long movie. One or the other. You can't do both. And because this is what happens when you get both. You get a bloated story with not enough time to service every single story element that you've introduced to the movie. And once again, a theme that seems to be cropping up across the Fantastic Four movies is a very good, well, I say very, a good solid opening and a solid 3/4 of the movie, and it drops off in the final act. Once again, this is the case. It builds up slowly towards the final act, bringing all the story elements it needs to resolve, and then only giving itself 20 minutes to resolve all of them. It doesn't work. and when you leave yourself, and yeah, when you leave yourself with the main heroes having to stand by and watch helplessly something else solve the issue and save the world for you, it doesn't really leave you with a sense of wonder that a superhero movie should. Having said that, it is a fun movie overall, and I would say it is worth watching. It is perhaps on par with the first one as well, even though a lot of people think there is a bit of a drop off. I would say that it's not better, it's not worse, it's about the same, and for that reason, I'm going to give it a 3 stars. So that was my review of Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. What did you guys think about it? Whatever you guys thought, please pop it in the comment section below. As always, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you very much once again for watching this video. I'll be back with another one shortly, but until then, you guys take it easy, and I'll catch you on the next one.